Hey everybody, this is a quick tutorial on how to add a UV map to an object. I'm going to just create a cylinder here real quick and then add a plane, and I'm just using the R key to scale this up. I'll grab the R key and scale that up as well. I'll grab my W key and move that up, and then I'm going to scroll in closer. I'm going to option middle wheel click to pull that down and then kind of come up on top of it a little bit. You don't see the pull down menu here, but I'm going to go to mesh tools and grab the insert edge loop and just kind of throw in some edge loops in here just to show you how you can pick a certain part of a cylinder to map. So that looks good. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is to go to the UV pull down at the top and go to UV editor, and here it is. I'm going to just zoom out. You can zoom in and out on this menu as well. Same controls for this one. You have 4 quadrants here, but the main quadrant that you work with is up here in the upper right, and your maps only reside up here in the upper right when you want to map something to an object. So just by going to the UV editor, you can see the cylinder already has a map set up for you, but more often than not, it's not going to work for you. So you typically need to grab your object and delete this map and start to create your own. So if you want to place an image on one side of this cylinder, we would need to first grab that object, go to UV pull down menu and select delete UVs, and that's going to remove everything and create a clean slate for you. Now what you need to do is go back over to my here and right click, go to face mode, and then select those polygons that you want to map your JPEG image to. It could be a PNG as well or other file types, but for this I'm just gonna say a JPEG. And so once you have those faces selected, you go back to your UV editor, and under the UV pull down menu you have a few things that you could select from. One is you could do automatic, which is usually used for box type mapping like a serial box, but we worked with a cylinder, and so I'm going to go with the cylindrical mapping. As soon as I click that, you'll see that this occurs to your cylinder. You don't have to touch really any of these things. By default it should be set up correctly. If we get a bad map or something, perhaps we need to go in here and change these things, but what I'm looking for though is in the UV editor here. Now all you see is this one map, and it's in the move tool right now. So if you use your W key, you can also use your R key to scale this map up and down. But what you want to do is get this map to fill that upper right quadrant, and now you're pretty much ready to go. That's one step. The next step then in this process is to add a material. So you would right click on this face. If you don't have your faces selected, you always could go back up into the quadrant and double click on the map to get everything selected that you need a material added to, and then you right click on it, go to assign new material. Yours will be Arnold. I don't have Arnold loaded on this one, so I'm just going to use Blinn. And as you know, when you go to the attribute editor, yours would say Arnold 1, mine says Blinn 1. I'm just going to call this map 1. And if you gave it a color, green for instance, it adds green, and then it also adds the green here. But we don't want a color, we want an actual JPEG image. So to add a JPEG, you would need to go to this icon in the attribute editor to the right of color, click on that, and this is a typical menu that comes up, and we're looking for the word file. Select file, and we have one more step. And if you look, there's one yellow folder in there that's saying click here. Once you click on that, now you just search for the JPEG image that you want to apply. I'm just going to grab one here called Iceland. I'm going to hit open, and you'll see in your UV editor now the image fills that upper right quadrant, which is good. You can always go in and select your UV, and then you can also from this point still scale the UV map to fit the image. So that looks good. So then when we go back to the Maya viewport, what we want to do is we want to click on, I'm kind of circling up here to the left of the light bulb is a little icon, checkered sphere. If I click that, that'll turn my textures on so I can actually see them. Sometimes that can get in the way as you're working, so you might turn that off. But when you're ready to see kind of the final image, you can turn that on, and there's your image. So if you look back in the UV editor, if I hit the R key and scale my map, depending on how I scale that, you can see the image change to that scale. Okay, so that's a UV map, and a UV map is the best way to go for adding images, because if we were to animate this, the image will be attached to the cylinder, and so it will go and move along with the cylinder in an animation. There's one other way to do this. It's called projection, and that's what we don't want to use for this. So once you learn how to use a UV, it'll always be this way from here on out. That's it for this. If you have any questions, just email me or send me your file and I can take a look at it. Thanks.